Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Vasundhara. I make content around lifestyle, beauty, vlogs, and my little puppy Chiggles. And the latest series that I have started is Thinking Out Aloud. And you guys loved the previous video, so I am carrying on making more videos in that kind of a domain. So today we will speak about the genre of romantic films and how people perceive them and how pop culture around it is. I went for the movie Saiyaara. I know a lot of you will have a lot of opinions, and so do I, but this video is not about Saiyaara. 2 days back I went for that, and 2 weeks back I went for Metro in Dino, and I just want to say that I am really glad Bollywood has gone back to making romantic movies. There is a sense of feeling like we are again going back into the era of what Bollywood for us millennial kids used to be. So I am a millennial kid, and in my childhood there were back-to-back romantic films. That's what Bollywood was known for, and we all know the Shah Rukh Khan and Kajol films and the ones that came in much after that as well, and we have fully loved them. And I also realized that by the time I was in middle school or high school, all of a sudden there was this switch where anybody watching romantic films or enjoying them was called cringe, or I don't think the word cringe existed back then. Cringe may be a slightly more recent word. And so it's been really intriguing to me why there is so much judgment and push and pull for and against romantic films and the genre in general. I have not watched K-drama, but I have heard that there is a huge fan following and maybe a lot of romance. And I find it interesting why people judge romance so much. In present day, people get judged a lot for watching and liking romance for a mix of social, psychological, and cultural reasons. There are the gender stereotypes, and in general, romantic films are looked at as feminine or something that is too girly to really enjoy, and thus they get devalued in male-dominated cultures. In terms of the gender bias to do with romance and romantic content, I feel like even when I was a teenager, there was a lot of judgment on being a female and feeling love. And I don't know where that comes from. I mean, I know, of course, where it comes from, but it's just very, very sad. And love and romance and vulnerability are not things that only one gender feels. Humans, animals, creatures feel these emotions. And I feel that it's just such a disservice to even young boys or men who are not allowed to feel these emotions openly. Or I think in pop culture, boys or men are not allowed the space to say stuff like we really enjoyed watching that romantic film. And maybe I haven't been a young boy, but I'm assuming that that is just stuff you don't share with your male peers, and or you'll get judged and mocked at and all of that. But that was probably happening when I was a teenager. I'm hoping it's changing now or has changed now. Films like these are often looked at as unmanly, too emotional, too cringe, and whatever else one wants to say, maybe unrealistic. Unrealistic, a lot of them are, but the point of romantic films is to take you into a parallel universe which we usually do not get to experience in our real lives. Interesting how our current day generations and pop culture celebrates irony and sarcasm and the lack of vulnerability and a sense of detachment, and that just is a bit sad, don't you think? Give you a small example of my growing up years. So I was going for a movie, Love Ajkal 2, I think, and I got judged by a male friend, and he was like, तेरे को तो बहुत पसंद आएगी because romantic film है और तेरे किस्म की लग रही है. And it's a separate thing that I found that movie pretty okay. But the point is, I think I have always enjoyed watching movies and content that make me feel, and it doesn't always have to hold a lot of logic. And I mean, that's what entertainment and movies are for, right? When we go for a fantasy picture or an action thriller or something, there are a bunch of times when the scenarios are not very realistic, and that's exactly how it is in the romantic genre as well. The genre is meant to make you get into the hall and zone into a part or a vulnerability of your own, so that you can fully feel like if you want to fully cry, you want to fully feel love, you want to fully feel wanted, that is, I feel, what romantic movies are for, right? I've actually had an intrigue on what really goes on in the psyche of a section of society that quickly jumps to judge romantic movies as a genre. I often feel that it is to do with not wanting to fully delve into feeling vulnerable, maybe, or maybe an aspect that is lacking emotionally in somebody's life, and maybe watching that kind of intense content brings that to the psychological forefront. Feeling a deep sense of vulnerability or connection with another individual can be a scary experience. There is a lot of surrendering involved. There is maybe a part of you that feels that I'm opening myself up too much to be judged, to be completely emotionally naked, and maybe that isn't somewhere we all are in all parts of or all phases of our lives. And there are others that secretly enjoy romantic films but would never really say it out loud while sitting in a group for the fear of judgment, maybe. And it is maybe the guilty pleasure to watch these films, because when we feel so much or when we are feeling vulnerable enough to cry and howl, we often want to be alone in a dark room. Or I remember a time in my life when I was really on the verge. I was very vulnerable, and my emotions were spilling all over the place, and I knew that any movie I'd go and watch, I'd end up crying in the hall, and I didn't really know whether I'm open to an experience where I can express so much so openly. Then to accept that the genre of romance can evoke such intense feelings, it quickly becomes easier to mock others who are, I would say, in a privileged spot to be feeling so much and feeling it so intensely. If I'm not wrong, romance is one of the absolute oldest storytelling methods and genres. And I also find it very interesting how the younger generation, also parts of my generation, happen to quickly find almost everything very cringe. And I literally had to Google what cringe means. For some reason, I always thought cringe is an expression that we make, maybe with like a nose like that or something. But I think what cringe means is that one feels like their tummies are twirling and they're feeling some amount of embarrassment, if I'm not wrong. So, why as a generation are we feeling so embarrassed, and why are we going through secondhand embarrassment so much? I wonder very often. I don't know if I believe in astrology or not, but I am a Libran and I am a full-fledged romantic at heart. I was very vocal on my Instagram even when I watched Sanam Teri Kasam's re-release, and I am a massive Harshvardhan Rane fan, if you know me. And even shows like Virgin River, which are slow-paced and there is authentic relationships and connections in them. I absolutely enjoy such content, and I have been made to feel embarrassed, prodded to feel embarrassed, I think ever since I was in class 9 or 10. And somehow before that in pop culture, or maybe I was too young, but somehow before that it wasn't really a thing. Like, we all fully embraced and accepted all the high intensity drama and the romance that Shah Rukh Khan movies threw at us, and that is what the that entire era of Bollywood, which connected with people across the globe, was all about. Pandemic, we have been surrounded by cinema and content that does 10,000 other things, but it just doesn't hold that kind of genuineness and emotion, and doesn't leave us, it doesn't stay with us. Like, you get what I mean? There is so much content online. Like, every day you could be watching a new series or a movie, and 2 hours later you don't even remember the entire aura of the film or the music or the characters. And I also feel that people feel scared of being sincere and feel uncomfortable about exposing themselves fully right now, because it is the era of social media, and with that comes in a lot of judgment, and somehow that seeps into our psyche, and we feel like we'll be judged, expose our the kind of genre of music that we listen to, the kind of genre of movies that we watch and enjoy, and truthfully enjoy, not just because it's trending on Instagram or on YouTube. And I do feel really, really, I mean, almost bad for the generation that did not live through the era of the high power romance and the drama of cinema and the movies, and how I think people of my age would relate to that. When we would go for a movie, मेरे तो like अगले like 2-3 हफ्ते उसी vibe में निकलते थे, and somehow that is what cinema was for, right? Like to transport you into a parallel universe and make you feel things that otherwise life does not. I feel in the modern day era there is a continuous need to perform or to showcase ourselves as a persona. We need to control our images continuously. We can't go out there and be like, we absolutely love this song which everybody else is not liking, or a movie that is so called cringe by the general public and our socioeconomic group. People from our socioeconomic group find to be cringe. So we can't just be vulnerable and say that I still loved this piece of content or cinema or music or whatever art that there is. We live in an era of hyper independence, hyper detachment, I'd say. And I don't know, man. I feel really bad for us, like all of us. I just feel really bad that we can't feel things to the same intensity any longer because we are just all so scared. And the fear is gripping, the fear of being abandoned, the fear of being judged, the fear of, I don't know, like just being too much of ourselves or just being too much. I personally feel really, really happy that, especially after the pandemic, when Bollywood was just making, not just Bollywood, I say that I feel that across the globe, cinema is just kind of feeling less. It's lacking that sense of emotion and connect. And there's a lot of action, there's a lot of VFX, there's a lot of thrillers and all of that, murder mysteries and stuff. But I really craved good cinema where I feel like when I'm sitting and watching, my heart is full, it's beating, and I am feeling what those two characters are feeling in the movie. And that is something, again, this is not a review video on the movie Metro in Dino or Saiyaara, but in both movies, after ages, I went into the hall and walked out feeling like मेरा पैसा वसूल हो गया, and Bollywood is somewhere making its return on making us feel a lot of emotion and relationships and connect and all of that. So I get asked so often about how Sandeep and I met and how we have sustained a relationship so long, and I would say that I'm really grateful that I met him at a time in my life where I was my most romantic self. I was being judged the way most, I would say, girls or females of that age group are. And, but I think I was pretty, I wouldn't say unimpacted, but I was very sure that I am a romantic. And when I date a guy, I think of the day I marry him and have kids with him. And I fortunately met a partner who felt very similarly, and which is why I'd say that we sustained a relationship that long. I see people in relationships of in the present day, and I feel like it's very unsettling because, and I'm not judging anybody, it's just the era that we are in. Everybody feels very much on the edge. Everybody feels very, very judged. If people feel extremely judged to communicate their beliefs and their thoughts and their most vulnerable selves. And I would say I am extremely lucky that I found my partner when I was 16 or 17 and I didn't have all these filters on. I personally feel that I was always the kind of person who wanted to be in a relationship, and I've said it so many times to my friends and they just laugh, but my purpose was to be born and fall in love and have some 10 kids and some 10 puppies around me. And of course, that's not how real life pans out, and I live in an apartment. But if I was rich and I had a farmhouse and money was not a concern, I definitely would have been there at this stage of my life. And yeah, that's where I come from. I think I am an old school romantic, or a typical millennial girl who grew up in the era of romantic Bollywood. And I remember that when I was a kid, and I think कुछ कुछ होता है आई थी तब, और मैंने बहुत टाइम बाद अपने पेरेंट्स से पूछा था कि शाहरुख खान और काजोल की रियल लाइफ में शादी नहीं हुई हुई. And my father was like, nahi beta, that's just an on-screen couple. And I was devastated. I had fully, and I'm sure a lot of you relate to this, but I had fully embraced them as a real-life couple. So if you may have noticed that the moment a romantic movie does well, the first thing or the first way we get to know about it is memes on Instagram. At least for me, it's that way. And there was, of course, Saiyaara itself was a marvel of a PR activity. Most likely, I think all the overreactive reels were part of the movie's PR. But that's what the scene is. I think romance very quickly gets too much as an emotion, and very quickly we convert it into embarrassment or irony or sarcasm or judging people around us. Large part of this judgment could be coming out of the fact that some of us are have parts of our lives and emotions that are unfulfilled in real life, and it may get too difficult to look inwards and accept that. Just like a lot of you, I also come from a culture and a time where emoting too much is often judged and not allowed. And specifically, emotions like love and anger and sadness, somehow I feel like girls still kind of squeeze in the space to express. But anger and love was not really encouraged when I was growing up. And the point is that we all hold all of these emotions, whether we are in relationships or not, whether we are, whatever phase of life we are in, these emotions are very much within us. And yeah, if you have watched any of these new films, do comment below and let me know what you feel about the fact that Bollywood is again making romantic films. If any part of this video connected with you or you relate to any of it, or even if you don't, do drop in a comment below. I'd love to know your thoughts. And do drop in your most favorite romantic movies below. And thank you so much. Do consider subscribing. I'll be back very, very soon.